let's start with a Citrix FAS session. So, how to getting rid of password complexity. So first I will start to present myself. So my name is Samuel Legrand, I'm from France, so bon appétit tout le monde. And so I'm a Citrix consultant for more than 10 years now, trying to design, implement and support Citrix infrastructure for customers from small, medium to large ones. I'm an active member of a French Citrix user group. My fellow Citrix friend here is also part of it. We try to manage it. I've been awarded as a Citrix CTP in 2017. I'm also a vExpert, Power VIPP, a tech community insider for my girl, and an inside track for UEC things. You can stay in touch with me on Twitter, LinkedIn, my blog, or if you have some question, you can ask me by email. So what we are going to talk about. So FAS is a Citrix product but is not well known. We'll see first what's happened like a month ago. We are still see if you are still using password, how we can manage security versus UX, user experience. We see a global picture of a product because Citrix tried to not promote that much this product. We'll see why. We try to understand why. Some definition, a step-by-step installation, how it's working, because it's quite complex to get it work. Troubleshooting and monitoring part, and then maintenance part on optimizations. So, let's start. A month ago, boom, that happened. So, yeah, thank you. So I start to work a lot on my presentations, like this. But we had a lot of fun, so that's the best part. So, as I said, using a password to connect to a Windows desktop, like almost everyone was doing, and people are trying, at least at my customer, they're trying to get rid of password. They want to use smart cards, multiple factor authentication, and yeah, the idea is to get rid of a single Active Directory password. But why? Because if we look back like several years ago, iSecurity was just having a complex password, and everyone has like a password like this, and it's not much that secure, sorry. And it came with a Brian Madden presentation was 5 years ago with FUIT, what stands for Fuck Your IT, which is basically what the users are trying to do with security things that we're trying to put in place. So there is several blogs, articles that are still valid on brianmadden.com. We are trying to go to strong authentication, so smart card, OTP, 2FA, MFA, whatever you want to call it. So people are trying to move away from password, and at least most of my customers. That was the main issue is that for now Microsoft provide authentication for Windows only for explicit, so basically user password. You can use smart card, or you can use Microsoft password or Hello. So basically looking at your desktop to unlock it. But user wants to do like things more cool, like using Google accounts, Google Authenticator, or Facebook authentication if they want. Samuel can be in the party for this. But again, we have to consider that security is almost always against user experience. So if you look there, like I tried to get rid of a CAPTCHA on one website. It was like a crazy thing. It's becoming more and more hard to get, at least for me, to get the good answer to the CAPTCHA sometimes on the internet. So if you put something on the security part, you need to have like something simple for the user. If it doesn't happen, they will try to fuck your IT. A global picture of what's behind Citrix FAS. So basically it's one single server. You can do load balancing of FAS server. This is the only documentation we can find on the Citrix websites about the infrastructure. So basically, you are using a Citrix server called FAS. It's talked to a Microsoft CA, Certificate Authority, and using DCOM. And then all the authentication process will be done through Kerberos. So Kerberos is important, so you need to have a prerequisite on your domain to have Kerberos working. And the only communication you have between the client and the infrastructure is done through Netscaler gateway, so it's TLS. You have a first zone called I trust, because you need to trust really the Netscaler on the storefront. If you don't, you will have some trouble. We'll see how it can work. And the infrastructure part, you need to have like ADFS is recommended by Citrix, but we'll see that it's not mandatory. We can use whatever you want for the authentication. And then you have like the domain controller and the VDA and the delivery controllers. So let's start by some definition. If you look at authentication in Oxford dictionaries, if you look at authentication, it's password and authentication are necessary part of system security. We'll see that it's not true now, right? So step by step. First thing you need to do is to create a GPO to deploy those registry keys. So this GPO is needed for FAS server, storefront, and VDA. So that's the first step of your installation process. And then once you have installed the project and you have set this registry key through GPO, you have this. So basically you can address your FAS server using the FAS console. The FAS console is that simple. 3 boxes, 3 start button, and your main objective, big green. So once you complete a step, the box starts to be green, and you are normally okay to do the next step. So first step, deploy certificate templates. So there are a couple of certificate templates that are provided with the product. So in a C program file, Citrix Federated Authentication Services template. So it's XML files that you should be able to add to your Microsoft CA. And then, so there is a couple of them. And now the 3 that are used by the product currently are Citrix Smart Login to produce the user certificates. And you have a Registry Authority and Registry Authority manual authorization that are only used at the beginning of a process of your run mount of your FAS server. So when you click the Start button, it just takes those 3 files and put it on their Active Directory. So you can check that you have them in Certificate Templates, MMC, and you should find those 3 ones. You can use ADSI edit to check if they are right there. Second is to say to your Microsoft CA that it can deliver those 3 kind of certificates. So you have 3 templates. First step is to put them in the Active Directory, and then you say this specific CA can deliver these 3 kind of certificates. Use these 3 templates to deliver certificates. And then the third one is like the more complex. It's authorization. So basically you click on Start, it asks for 2 certificates. You click Start, you ask for the first certificate, that is the number 3 in my pending request. You click on Issue, and then it automatically changes and asks for a 4th one, which is the final one. So the first one is just used to do a manual procedure to validate that you are an enterprise admin to do the thing. So as I mentioned, you need to be enterprise admin to do all these steps. So you can do it from the GUI like this, or you can provide the templates to your enterprise admin that can enroll the certificate and ask for a new certificate. One point really important is that it's really require Microsoft CA. So for now, the customer I'm working with is not a Microsoft fan for PKI, so they have Open Trust from iDynamics, and it's currently not working. We are trying to get something working with Citrix support and Citrix PMs, but for now it's not working, and we don't try that much to make it working. The reason why it's not working that good with over Microsoft PKI systems rather than Microsoft is just because we are using the DCOM to talk with the CA, which are like Microsoft ones. So we succeed to install and configure the FAS server. Now we need to do some configuration of the access chain. So the storefront and the delivery controller. So on the storefront you have like a small script to launch. It's for now not available in the GUI, so you need to copy paste the script. So basically it's dedicated one store to the FAS communication. So you select your store, like your Citrix/store. Then you get the store virtual path, and then you add the STA authentication service, the FAS claim factory, and the FAS logon data provider things. So if you don't do this, the FAS will never receive the request, the certificate request. So this is really important. And then, if not already enabled, you need to run the set broker site command to trust the storefront server. So that's an important thing. If you are running on the cloud, with Citrix Cloud, you need to raise a support ticket to do that. There is a Citrix article that is informing you the way that you should create the support ticket. And normally it's now enabled by default. But for, yeah?
That's the question. You cannot set yourself with the PowerShell SDK for cloud?
No, because this command is not exposed to the customer. So it's like a command, they are like exposed commands for...
Get is exposed, but not the same.
Yeah, you cannot modify the site's information when you are running Citrix Cloud because it's managed by Citrix and it's there. If something breaks, they need to fix it, so they don't want you to touch it. That's simple like this. So yeah, you have to ask them to run it, and if you're like a recent customer, like it starts six months before, they start to enable automatically this thing. So, what you need to do when you are using like FAS, you need to authenticate the user because FAS is not an authentication system. So you need to have like Netscaler that should find the UPN of the user. So you can authenticate using whatever solution is supported by Netscaler. So username, password. If you want to get rid of password, is maybe not the good solution. You can just use username. It works. You can just ask the user to type his login. You click go, and it opens a Windows station with Kerberos without providing any password, which is completely not secure. But you can do it. So username, password, OTP. The default thing from Netscaler since version 11 is working fine. Radius server, SAML authentication, whatever you can do with Netscaler, it's fine to authenticate and then pass the UPN of the user. So, like I said, storefront is configured to trust the Netscaler for the authentication, and you need to check this hidden box, the most hidden box of the storefront GUI. So manage authentication methods, pass through from Netscaler gateway, configure delegate cheat authentication, and this one. If you don't do it, you will be prompted for a user password. So it's a common box for the guys who are used to do Netscaler, but you can find it. You can have to search for it like for a couple of minutes or hours, like I did with a colleague last time. So, storefront need to receive a UPN. So, from Netscaler, it will ask FAS for a virtual smart card, send the ICA file to a client, and FAS will receive the UPN from the storefront. It will check if the storefront is authorized for asking for certificate. So you have a list of the storefront server that you need to configure. And then you will verify that the user is authorized to ask for a certificate too. And then ask for the certificate using the Citrix Smart Card login for the UPN here received. That's easy. So the VDA needs to log in using this user certificate, and he will never receive the private key of the user certificate. He will just have to connect with the FAS. So the VDA agent you have running under VDA is asking for FAS if the user is the real one. And on the client side, you run the ICA file like normal, and you log on without credential prompt. That's the main idea. If you go on troubleshooting, because for now everything is working fine, but sometimes it's just not working. So event log, and this time Citrix made a really good job at event log. So everything is present. If you have any problem with certificate request, with an expired CA or whatever, you will have an event log. So there are like 50 different event logs you can find. They are all present on the documentation. So there is logs and there are documented. So that's quite rare for Citrix. So that's a good point. And yeah, there is also different perf mode counters, and they also create something really interesting, is that you can have an idea on how your FAS server is working. So the last one is like a state of your FAS server, like low, medium, high, and you can just check this one and say is creating your alert based on this perf mode counter. So for now, I didn't find any monitoring solution that is looking at these specific counters. So I asked my friend at ControlUp, and it will be included in the next versions to be sure that we can handle the FAS with this product. So it's quite efficient. You can see if how many users are asking for a certificate, and if all the services are working fine. So that's a good idea from Citrix. If we talk about the maintenance task, almost the only one is every 2 years. But if you miss that one, you will be in trouble, because no one will be able to connect, and everyone will also be disconnected. So basically a global outage. So every 2 years, Outlook reminder, renew a certificate. And the documentation is quite clear. I put the link, and if it's not well done, you will have a user that will not be able to connect. So you should have 2 servers to handle the load. You can put one in maintenance mode, change the certificate, renew the certificate on this one, put it in turn off the maintenance mode, do the same for the second one, and everything should be fine. Let's talk about optimization. So normally, when the user is connecting, he should ask for a certificate each time. And if it's not present on the FAS server, the FAS server needs to talk with the CA. The CA needs to create the new request and then send the certificate to the new to the FAS server, and everything can take a small amount of time. But if you are like migrating a few thousand of users one day at the morning connection peak hour, you will have like a CA that will be long to respond. So what Citrix recommend is, if you are like having a lot of users, is to create just this kind of CSV file, CSV with only one field, so easy to get. And then to create with this script, you can create all your pre-create your certificate. So it will cause a lot of communication with the CA authority. So you should run it like in a off hour in order to not have issue during your production hours. Optimization in terms of security. So we are talking about certificate, and security is a key. It's just about the key of your the private key of your certificate. There is another French guy who creates a product called Mimikatz, and the issue is that FAS is handling certificates in a Windows way. So basically, FAS server is can be hacked with Mimikatz, because you can retrieve all your private keys. And if you have the private key of one user, you can connect and use it just to have access to his desktop files, private document, and everything. So what is recommended for now is to use like an HSM, so hardware security module, to store your private keys, so that the FAS server will not have a private key inside. There is a blog article from Christian Lechner about why private keys or certificate needs protection. And there is also a documentation from Citrix to allow the FAS server to store the private keys in the HSM. So basically to switch from Microsoft way of handling a private key to an HSM one. It's really important. In the documentation from Citrix, you can find that FAS server are security critical and should be treated like domain controller, because as I mentioned, you can ask for a certificate for anyone, and you will receive this certificate, and we will be able to connect to a user session. So you should treat the FAS server like a domain controller. And the good thing is that domain controllers are quite well known on the Microsoft industry. So Microsoft is providing like tons of recommendations, and most of them are valid for the FAS server too. One of the first things is that you shouldn't give never physical access to your FAS server. That's one of the first things that you will see. So you need to protect your FAS server, and then provide logs and analytics on the connection you can accept from the FAS server. And you should also limit the number of administrators you have on these servers, because by default all the domain administrators get access to the FAS server. I think I'm at the question part. I've been a bit quick, but I'm sure you have questions. Yeah.
Can you tell us about this actual state of supporting SAML authentication when coming through Netscaler with native client? So not authenticated on a website,
yeah. But for now, I think Workspace apps support SAML authentication. If I maybe SAML2 authentication, but receiver, old version of receiver, there is no support, but Workspace app should
I heard it works when going direct to the storefronts. but not when it's coming through Netscape. I have not yet touched it.
Me neither, but it should be supported.
Okay. Was the native not going through it?
Maybe louder.
I think there was an issue with the older version of receiver, you're right?
Yeah.
But I think it has been corrected since 4.12. Yeah.
Okay.
But the LCSR receiver is not
I have to retest.
So this is 4.12. I'm not sure about the right version.
Yeah.
4.12 and above.
Merci.
Okay.
Yeah.
Do you see this as being enterprise ready?
Yeah, definitely. If well configured, well secured, it's for now the only issue I found with this product is that Citrix is not promoting it like crazy. I think we prefer to get some users or some customers trying it. I made this presentation at the Norway CUGC last week, and I asked, hey, how many people are using FAS? And there was like one guy who says, hey, me. And how much users do you have? Like 2,000 something. And it's working. After that, you need to be. The issue I think you can have is the lack of experience, because you need to know that HSM is almost required for in order to have a high level of security. You need to know how to handle the certificate, because it's something quite new for at least Citrix guys, because we were like just user of a smart card, and now we are like dealing with a CA, dealing with certificate expiration, all these things. So you need to have like a proper thing or a proper solution to manage your certificate in place. But FAS is just working. You tried also.
Yeah, the setup seems to be a bit
ugly,
very light, but it doesn't need much more,
No.
because in the background this is just a virtual line that are executed. But Sam is making good point when he's speaking about HCL. HSM, yeah, I don't remember the name. Because this is mandatory for security for private business, but this is also mandatory for the CPU consumption.
Yeah, the
Because
performance.
if you have a lot of users, the Windows server will just fall apart. So this is something. And you need to be careful with HCM bots, because they are used to doing web transaction. So it's very it's very
low. It's at a low level. The issue is if you get like 10,000 of users connecting, the HSM will need to be well sized. So
sometimes you need to just pick the high level, the top level of HSM box, because they are not used to log on storm and having like 5,000 people that are logging in less than 1 hour.
Almost the same, but we were not used to have storage. Having able to log on 1,000 of users, you need to get like high level of storage. Now for HSM is the same.
Yeah. Regarding HSM, how can you manage this with the
In the cloud scenario,
yeah.
So there is HSM on the cloud, in the cloud, which is quite strange, because H stands for hardware. But there are like virtual HSM in the cloud. We have a specialist of Azure, and there is some solution. Gemalto is providing some, and I think Microsoft start too in the no, but I think so.
Always working. The HSM, it's a physical card that you install on the server.
Depending, you have boxes, so like a pizza box that you are putting on your rack, and then it's just an appliance, and you have physical PCI Express card. The PCI Express are normally not for that huge amount of transaction that we are going to do.
Okay, so typically if you are using the cloud, you will have your FAS servers, and the communication, ingoing and outgoing communication need to go through the HSM box.
The HSM will be involved when the FAS server will need to sign with the private key of the user. So the HSM is there to store the private key of the certificate.
Okay, so every outgoing communication needs to go through the HSM from the FAS server.
Yeah. So again, you need a second HSM to handle the DR and blah blah blah.
And can you use one HSM for 2 FAS servers?
Yeah. It's like you should see it like a storage. It's a storage, a secure storage for private keys. So,
Like Azure Keyboard.
yeah.
And you have HSM on Azure.
Gemalto is providing one, I'm sure. I think I saw that Microsoft is providing or is working on, because it's like a huge thing for, if you look at web, because HSM was dedicated before for web transaction, like when you go to eBay or whatever website you are putting your credit card on it. So normally it's for this kind of players. So they are all in the cloud, so there are like several solutions for in the cloud for them. That's it. Thank you very much.
Thank you.